we'll just start talking just to check that that's actually recording, and I will share the screen because I nearly forgot that, which is, there we go. So Jack, today in this recording, what we're doing is looking at your website, like we said. The idea is that we have a discussion around where you're at, what things are missing, what we could add, try and give you pointers as to what could be improved, basically. In this, because this is our first feedback session after your pitch. So in the first round of feedback, what we're trying to do is focus on context and research, and then later on, the next round, we'll be talking more about your practical skills and your evaluation work. But this case at the moment is really to do things like check that everything's where it should be on your website, to kind of just go through that guidance, and then to ensure that there's anything that is missing that you can then add, basically. Okay. So from your point of view at the moment, like where we are in the project, how are you feeling like it's going? Is the project going well? Are you enjoying it? Is it like, are you behind, or?
I'm definitely enjoying the project, and I think it's going pretty smoothly and too smoothly.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, the other cynical side. That's good. I mean, like, I think that sounds really good. And from my observations and my kind of like, seeing you on a daily basis, you've really invested a lot of time and got to grips with production, which is fantastic. And you've been with the support of Jen and Claire and other people. Like, you've done a really good job of like making sure that your blogging work is responding to what we're saying to do. And so I think so. Yeah. And you built on things that we've said about the pitch. So yeah, all good. So we're going to go through, starting on the homepage. You've got your SWOT analysis currently on your homepage, and then this document. Let's see, what do you know what this? That's your SWOT in document form.
That's just in case the SWOT didn't get across.
Okay.
But it did anyway.
Yeah. So the SWOT can stay on your homepage. More importantly, though, for your homepage, it should have your project proposal form. So the form that's like where you outline essentially what your project brief is. Does that ring a bell to you? The one that says like, this is what I'm good at. It's sort of like your SWOT at the start. You say, this is what I'm good at, and it's a Word document. You fill it, and then you say, this is my brief, like what I'm doing in the project itself. Does that ring a bell to you? I'm going to skim through and see if I can find it then, see if it does exist in here somewhere. If it doesn't, that's your first sort of actionable point, and I'll point you in the direction of where the template is for that. Project proposal form, which is basically the brief. So it might be that it exists on the website just somewhere where it shouldn't. I'm not currently seeing it, so I think and again, that's why we do this sort of thing. It's just to sort of try and identify those sorts of issues that might have cropped up that we can then remedy. So that's your. I don't see it on your site, basically, and that is. I'm going to show you what it is because it's on Teams. I'm also going to download it and directly message it to you, Jen. Now, I guess would probably make sense. I'll put it on that chat that you've got, Sidequest chat. Yeah, that'd be the best place to put it. So it's on the Teams bit. It's way up at the start, and I think this is the thing, because you were finishing up other work at the start. This is how these things kind of got missed. So it's perfectly kind of understandable. That is this document here. I'll just show you what it looks like. So this is a really sort of standard template. You will have done this even when you were on level 2, and it would look really similar to this, where you say your name at the top, your candidate number, and then the rationale bit is essentially the bit where you say all the things you're good at and the things you're not so good at. So like your SWOT analysis, basically. So your rationale would be like, I really like 3D modeling. I really like putting things together in Unreal Engine. I want to make this kind of puzzle game because that's something that I'm interested in. And so it's more about the kind of backstory of Jack Hobbs, basically, like why you want to do the project in the way you want to do it. And this explains all that to you as well. Section 2, and as you can see, it's got very strong stipulated word count guidance, which you need to try and stick to. So 150 words for that. And essentially, literally what you can do there is take the SWOT analysis, which we've just seen exist, and write that into paragraph format, and then put that on there. So that's easy to do. The next one, this section, section 2, this is your brief, the project concept. So this is where you get to the into the nuts and bolts of what your project's about. So you would say, I intend to make a game based on the theme of a puzzle game set in my home. It's designed to be played by people who are waiting in the waiting rooms at Bristol Hospital or just in any hospital, I suppose. And it's intended to be a light-hearted distraction from that kind of environment. And yada yada. All the things you said to me in the pitch, that goes there. Okay, in 200 words. You also can, in this section, explain the processes you'll go through and the equipment. So you can say, in order to produce this, I will use a combination of 3D Studio Max. I'm not going to be texturing in Substance Painter, but I'm going to be going for a stylized texture thing in Unreal Engine, and that's that. Okay, yeah, it's straightforward. Valuation methods in this box, again, it's 150 words, so just a paragraph really, not very much. If you look at the actual amount of words that are written in here that are guidance and highlight them, that itself is 100 words. So 50 more words than what's in that box, basically. It's not much. You can see that's just a paragraph, basically. And in that, what you're saying is how you're going to evaluate your work. So it should say things that we already do, like using Wix website to record and document our work. This sort of process where we have 3 meetings in total during the project, including the pitch and 2 of these, where you have recorded feedback sessions. And anything else that you might do. So it might be like you have informal discussions with your sport people, people at home. It might be that you aim to get something that's built and playable in the next few weeks so that your classmates can play it and give you feedback on it and get all those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just any way that you think you're going to evaluate your project. And then the last one, which is down here. Oh, this is suggested research sources, so the proposed research sources. You can put a few of the key products down in here that you think you will form the basis of your project. So it might be something like Sims that we talked about, or some of the walking simulator games that we've referenced and we talked about before, like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture or The Arrester or whatever it might be. So anything like that, Roblox, etc. Yeah. So just some of the key titles. Try not to list it. Just say these will be some of the things that I know I'm going to look at. I'm also going to look at some of Sam's Unreal tutorial resources, or the resource that Fraser went through for modeling something specific, and all those things. So you just talk about those things there. Okay. And the last bit is like a kind of a mini diary of what you were doing week on week. So we had to sort of change the dates a little bit for yours because you started a couple of weeks later, but you're running 2 weeks later through the extenuating circumstances form. So if we just change the dates to say, you were introduced to the project concept there, but essentially you've got 2 extra weeks. It might just be that you add a couple of weeks on at the end of the table, and then just say that you're running to the 6th of June, which is your hand-in date. Okay. Basically, what you do in this box is have a little plan of what you're doing week by week. And it's going to be a bit of a case of like reverse engineering, casting your mind back to what you did early on. So it might be like in week, 1, writing the proposal, doing a bit of research around the pitch. Week 2, start researching some of these games. Week 3, maybe start modeling some assets that you made to go in there, etc. Yeah. So each of those things broken down. Okay. So that's that document. I'm going to then put that into. Might have just explained all that, and then it turns out you've got it somewhere. In which case, hope that. But it's not the end of the world. But if it isn't somewhere, then we can put it there. Now I've got to find our side quest chat. Oh, here it is. Just flag that one. Actually, I'll pin that one rather, so I've got to find it later. So that's your first major thing, Jack. That goes on your home page, okay?
Yeah.
So that's this PC downloads. So use that form exactly as it is. Don't change it too much. Just use it as that is, and then upload that back on there, okay? And then there is one box on there for candidate number, which I think if I was on the ball earlier on, I would have sent to you. I might not have, because I might have thought it would confuse you because you were doing something else at the time. Just sending you a random number. Oh yeah, here it is. I did send it to you. So that number there. Okay. Yeah. So that number will go on here as well. I'm going to post that. Thanks. for the form. Okay, so that goes on that form. Just that's how UAL know you. Okay. Right, that's that bit done. So back to more stuff. So the SWOT's there, and I think, like I say, what we're doing today is just trying to identify things that you can do. We've got a bibliography page, so I'm going to check that. At the moment, there's no sources listed on here.
Yeah. Quite bad at that.
Okay, I like the noise you made. Just don't. So yeah, I think that's easier. This is an easier process if you do it either little and often. Some people prefer to do this on a separate document. And actually, this is one of the tools where AI is quite handy to help with this. So you can put in, so like say ChatGPT, can you put this into a bibliography format, a Harvard referenced format? And if you feed it in a load of websites that you've looked at or games that you've looked at and things, it will turn them into Harvard formatted bibliography references, which would be really good. So it's one of the few times where I advocate using like AI to help you. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but it's more long-winded and you have to like look up. So for example, if you've looked at a website or a game, let's say we Harvard reference a game, and this will come up at the top of Google because this is how you would do it. So for example, this has got Elden Ring down as the example, and you put the title, or the developer rather, first of all, so in this case Bandai Namco, then the year that it was released, so 2022 for Elden Ring, the title of the game, and then the version if it's applicable, so if it's like, you know, PC or whatever, but you just put video game generally, and then the actual publisher is the last thing you put, so From Software. Okay, so that's, if I screenshot that, Windows Shift S, going to put that in, but you need to do the same for any websites that you look at, please. So let's put that there. Now, hopefully that will remind you of that. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, that next time we have a look at this, that should be full up with. So what I would, as a kind of rule of thumb, I would say if you're doing a decent job of researching, which you are, you're being thorough and stuff, I'd expect like 20 to 30 sources on a bibliography for a project of this size. I don't think.
Videos and
Yeah, I imagine you have. Yeah,
in
perfect. So then that's the next thing. I'll tell you what, before we get on to actually looking at the context and research thing, one last thing is to check in. We saw this before, but you've got your pitch on here and you've reflected on it. Fantastic. After today, I will send you a copy of this video. And if you would do the same thing again, summarize what we've said and what your actions are to come away from this meeting and do, and then it forms its job as what, you know, it's evidence mainly for the awarding body to say that we've been supporting you through the process and all that stuff, but it helps to catch you up with things that you might have missed otherwise. Okay, so we've remedied quite a few things. Just the fact that the website link wasn't working is a big thing. It seems like a small thing, but it's quite important, so we'll just get that kind of stuff right. So now onto the context and research. We have range of sources. We start off with games and go along into other areas, which is good. And I'm not going to be able to, in the time frame that we've got, I'd love to sit here and read all of it, but I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to have to skim it and just kind of look at things on a surface level. I'll read some bits, but yeah, sorry. So you've talked about that in relation to the fact that the room isn't too cluttered and you want your room to be like simpler in style, so it's easier to navigate.
I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
How it's quite spacious already.
Yeah. So from Roblox, you're talking about the more like block shading, block colors, yeah?
Quite solid colours and that.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's quite nice. You've gone for like really vivid colours. I think that's quite a good thing to discuss. Have you got anything on colour theory?
I should go down a little bit more.
Oh yeah, skid past it. Yeah, cool. I thought I remember you doing that. More vibrant colours. I think one thing you could talk about. Didn't you say specifically that the intended target audience might be children or younger people?
Well, younger to maybe about my age, really.
So yeah, what would the starting age be then, Jack, for those people?
Probably what I remember at the hospital, probably around about 6 to 7, maybe even 5.
Okay, yeah. So the puzzle elements, you have to make sure that firstly that they're not too complicated. That say 6 or 7 year old who plays, they're all playing Roblox by now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, perfect. I think that's really nice. I think one other thing you could add into this color psychology then is a little bit about the colors that appeal to that younger age group. If you look at something like a product like a kid's website or kids' TV programs channel, imagine they're on that age you're talking about. They're on the kind of cusp of the end of CBBS, if we're talking BBC, in going into CBBC. And so there's that kind of, but the colours are really vivid. They're often primary colours, aren't they? Which is what you've done actually in your level.
Yeah.
They're like very vivid colours. So not so much the neons that we see here. Yours are more, I'd say, more primary colours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. So I
have a few pictures of in this book.
Of what you've made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Is it on? Where would that be?
Might be.
Skills. Yeah.
Yeah, though.
It doesn't matter because I've seen it anyway. I know, but we can reference that. I thought I'd seen.
I'm
sure I saw a screen. Anyway, so we've got like bright red safers. We've got blue blocks. We've got colored walls, etc. So it does very much feel like if you were to look at a kids program, just because I'm an avid fan of you, there's like things like this Justin's house, which is like. Mr. Tumble? Yes. So he's got a series, The Actual House. It has a feel of like, not quite as crazy as that, but it's got like, quite abstract coloration. Your thing is not actually too dissimilar to that. So I think it feels like audience-wise that you could relate it to something like this as a sort of prop or an inspiration. Obviously, this has got sort of strange abstract forms with the doors being all triangular and a bit like warped, and like the perspective's kind of strange, right? But it wouldn't be a bad thing to kind of reference something like this, or the like houses in Balamory. I don't know again if this is something you're familiar with, but this like kind of this Scottish series, they had these really vivid colours, and it's actually like primary colours, not dissimilar to what yours is. And that again is all about that kind of visual appeal, the visual stimulus that children really tap into. And this thing then that means your product is on brand and on point. So I think it would be a good reference point to build it. Okay, because I think you've done that basically, probably subconsciously. So if you make it a deliberate blog post, that'd be good. And yeah, you've looked at Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and in terms of like a quintessentially sort of British space. Then you've got these reference pictures.
Yeah, there's of living rooms.
Okay, and then you've got pictures like of your own home that you put in here as well to show like your references.
I think I took some, but I can't seem to find them.
Okay. I mean,
but
you've got this. I was going to say this is off Rightmove, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's your floor plan sorted. Perfect. And I like that you've got details about dimensions and stuff. So the fact you're basing it on your own home is really good. I think that could be another thing. If you've lost the pictures or whatever, the rooms that you're basing it off, it might be quite nice just to have like a photograph. So, although I'm completely changing the decor and everything, the door is here, and this is why I've done it, and the stairs are here, and the lights the things that stay the same or where they are. Okay. That's like what makes it personal to you, right? And then we've gone in. So what we've got, hang on, am I on the right page? Yeah, so we're on research still.
Yeah.
Some branding here, and then we've started. So this is research, like a technical research in terms of how you're thinking about making things. Yeah. Yeah. About moving blocks. Now, I think what's happened here is this stuff is great. What's this then? Oh, this is 3A stuff?
That's the
Okay. This is the snack reflection, London reflection. Right. So what I would like ask you to do here, Jack, is take all of this from the crosshair placement stuff. I remember you doing that a couple of weeks ago with Lynn on Friday, and then the testing level 1. From there up to where you start making here, this bit.
Yeah.
You can paste that, put that onto your practical skills section of your site. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's more like you making it basically, and it doesn't matter. I can find it, but it's just better practice if it's like this is basically if you think, oh, I made this, or this is contributing to me producing the game, that goes on this page. Anything that's research based goes on to the other. Okay. So if we can move that over, that would be good. We've got logo design stuff. I feel like that's duplicated because that was on the other page as well, wasn't it?
Was I can decide which one to put it on, so I just put it on both.
Both. Spread your best. So that's fine. This, I think, it's kind of. I think because that ties into the color psychology and the design side, I'm okay with. I think leave that on the research page because it's more like the branding and the contextual stuff. So leave that there. Delete it off of the practical skills page, and then move that stuff that we just said about over to the practical skills. Does that make sense? Yeah. Leave your and great, and then you've got your asset stuff. And then we've got a lot of things on here that look like they're not things on here that are not reflected on. So we've got some like this looks like a placeholder at the moment.
Yes,
Yes.
that's because it was both of those videos there are technically the same thing. I just accidentally paused it without meaning to.
Right. Okay.
So if you look further down, that is the
You've explained.
it.
Okay. Cool. That's fine. That makes sense. Stuff. All right. Cool. That's fine. Somehow like so. This is good. And you're talking about so if when we're looking at the grading criteria for practical skills, like the idea that you've got processes and skills and knowledge demonstrated and a competent execution and application of techniques used to develop ideas. That's good. I think like to push up into the next bit is that extending the inquiry and developing creative solutions. So basically that's like the idea of like trying something new out. And like it might be that in some cases that doesn't work, but in some cases it might, you might find something that is like works and you get that and you can add that to your product. So if you do experiment with things on your practical skills page, let's say for example, I don't know, let's say you build a front menu for your game, you make it like
I did think of doing it tomorrow actually.
Good idea. Yeah. So yeah, that would be a good one. And then you could put your logo on because that already exists. You could maybe get a little screen capture of your scene, and then that would link to doing a little bit of research around menu design for other games, and probably going back to when Sam did that with you before, just basic stuff like getting your play button working, using the UI widgets in Unreal, all those things to get that added. Okay, so that'd be good. If we focus a bit more on because I think that's all practical skills, and we'll do that more next time round. I think the main thing to do, which is what you're doing, is great, is talking about problems and things when you're making it. Research-wise, then, a few other things. Like I said, think about other children's products that are friendly and like puzzles from games that are similar. Have you got that in here, like what I call mechanic-based research in terms of like gameplay functions that are similar to what you've achieved?
I don't know, but I might have.
So we talked about Zelda, yeah, Tabs Open. So yeah, I mean this mechanic here, looking at Zelda, this inspiration of found many objects I couldn't locate. Simple thing, another one to use. So literally on this screen grab here, from I think that's from Breath of the Wild, you've got the screen grab of someone like when Link picks up the blocks with his like telekinesis power, he then puts them on the pressure plate in the shrines, right? And then that causes the thing where you get the reward of the whatever it's the gemstone or so you complete the shrine. So that's basically the perfect example. What you haven't told me there is that actual mechanic is then has made its way into your game. You can pick up objects, put them on a pressure plate, and that opens a door in your case. Yeah. So that's the perfect example of using research to inform your idea. So this, as an example, would be where you could go back and say, you said after looking at Zelda as a point of inspiration, I found that it had many objectives and I couldn't locate anything simple enough that I wanted to use in my game. actually, that's not true because one example here is perfect where you've used pressure plate pad, as a mechanic and done that. So anything like that where you think actually that's that mechanic that I've got, it might even be just the fact that you can pick up objects. You wanted your game to have loads of physics-based objects, so you can basically destroy a room, right? That's kind of like every kid's dream as well, right? To kind of like destroy a space, in a virtual sense. And again, it kind of goes back to those game shows that children watch, which is about like destroying spaces and stuff, right? Which is quite a weird thing. I never liked that as a kid. I wanted everything neat and tidy, but a lot, those kind of programs have that appeal for that reason. So I think you should talk about that as a reason, as a justified sort of mechanic, and then look at games where you get to do that. Like in the new Marvel Rivals game, when you're in the lobby, you can just destroy stuff. There's big vases and statues and things, and like you can basically just test out your weapons in there and just destroy things. So it's sort of like your game feels a bit like that, sort of like a play zone or something like that. Playground, exactly. Yeah, so that playful quality. So I think again, if you link back to maybe like soft play centers that kids love, they love winging balls around and sliding down things and stuff, and then also to like that proving ground thing that games have when they just let you go to town on a space and destroy all the pots. So that would be a good one, like a reference to that kind of playful quality that your game has. Can you think of any other examples of things that you're going to have in your game that you haven't yet talked about?
With the adding of how rolling down stuff, I intend to, with the first room, is just placing objects on that.
Yeah.
The next room basically be like rolling it in.
Okay.
So I have like some kind of slope, so you can't actually press it.
Yeah.
But the ball can.
Okay. Yeah.
Just yesterday I was testing if in Unreal could actually make a ball roll on it.
Yeah, definitely. So instead of placing a block, the next one is placing a ball. So again, it's like it kind of goes back to those childhood games as well, like the kind of where you push a square peg through a square hole, those sorts of things. So there's that shape reference thing, which is nice.
Yeah.
But doing it on a physical or a virtual space, but with a virtual ball and rolling it into a bit like the sort of result of like if you get a putt in mini golf when the ball like goes in the hole, it maybe makes a sound play or a flag fly up, whatever. Yeah, that'd be cool. I think then anything like that you can think of that you can reference it to, like we just said there, like a child's toy, pretty basic one like shapes going in a certain thing. That'd be great. So try and think about more reference points that you can build in to your research and reference those. So child's games and child's colours and things like that, and those friendly sort of experiences would be good to have in here. And then you could also, the only other thing I think that you could add to your context and research bit off the top of my head is the idea of like some technical research. You might well have more of that, but I see this here for the crosshairs thing.
Yeah.
Because I got you to do that when you fixed it on that day.
Mm.
To do that as much as you can. So there's for research and context, the grading criteria. Let's bring that up a minute if I can. It's not opening. It's not responding. But yeah, in the grading criteria for the merit or the higher levels of research, it's the idea that you have reference points in there that you can show that the research is basically this word that's ongoing. It's not just that you do a bit of research at the start to tick a box and say, me and Sam will be like off your back. It's like if you do research that as you're going through the project, that helps you and then gives you an idea, and then you change your project based on that. Okay. So I've just given up the ghost to do that. But yeah, any more of these basically embedding video tutorials and linking back to references. So if when you're modeling it, and you're like, oh, this my sofa that I've modeled, it's based on my actual sofa from home or just this basic generic sofa, then here's an example. And then it's like the bit of research, the thing you've made, and then the bit of the line trace stuff that you've done to enable you to pick that up and make it a working physics object. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I just a moment ago, as I said, tomorrow I intend to make the God, the menu, yes. Menu, like I intend to go back to what Sam video he made one with us.
Yeah.
But then also go to someone else's
Yeah.
to see if I can make it a bit more.
Spot on. Yeah, you might get something more advanced.
Yeah.
So then embed the two things onto your page, put them there, show us your menu when you're making it, screen record it as you're going, and then put that on. Great. Try and do that. And then a little short blog post. I found this bit tricky, or actually all worked perfectly, fingers crossed. And then the buttons all performed. I remembered what Sam showed us when we did this in the previous group project, and I just added this button, and yeah, I've added a quit button game, whatever. Yeah. So that would be great. So I think there's a lot to celebrate here, Jack. I think we're definitely on course if you remain on this level and get everything done that I've seen and everything that you've created to transpire onto here to pass if this continues. But try to think of wherever there's an opportunity to add research around any element that you've covered, try to be a bit more expansive in your analysis of it. Like I said, that Zelda one is maybe one example that I'm picking up on, kind of unfairly maybe, but I think it's an example where it's like, well, this is perfect actually. And in saying that you've noticed about picking up blocks, putting them on a pressure pad, that activating something, you've applied that to your game. Perfect. That's an interpretation research. You've applied it in a new context. It works for your game, and that's perfect. So any more examples like that? I want to see that trying to happen a bit more, basically. Okay. And then the research around color theory, linking it to child-friendly design, I suppose, and then including those things that we said about, so like kids' TV programs and the kind of what the psychology behind messing stuff up, I suppose, like the ability that you were finding it fun just winging the sofa out of the window in the game, and that's like, that's what your audience is hopefully going to enjoy. So the ability to, there's something really odd about that. It's really rewarding. It's like a playful thing that I can pick up this thing that should be not really heavy and just chuck it around. Great. And then the last thing is, as you get more into making something playable, try, like we said before, try and get people to go on your game, play it, give you feedback on it, and capture that and respond to that. And if you can make some changes, if they say, "Oh, look, when I picked up the sofa, I blocked up the door with it, and it meant I couldn't get out of the room," maybe that's something that you could then script in a button that resets the room to its original state, or something like that, which might be very tricky. But actually, I don't think it is. If you had it so that you respawn, like basically essentially restart the map and then respawn you, so everything goes back to its origin point, that could be really cool as a way, because if there's something that you can do with the objects, that would be my thing that I'd foresee happening going wrong. If you can chuck everything about, you might end up breaking the game that way. So if there's some sort of reset button.
So try and find something like that, because that does sound like it could happen quite easily.
Yeah. It'd be quite fun, and also like where to chuck things and how to do it. If someone just jumps on it and enjoys throwing things around too much and then clogs up the exit, they can't get out, and then the game's essentially broken. You've got to foresee all these problems as a designer and developer. Yeah. But yeah, good stuff, Jack. I think we're on. You're doing really well. So let's wrap this up here. Unless you've got anything else you want to discuss with me, is that enough to be getting on with? Do you think?
I think that's no. But I'm sure if there is anything else.
No, if it comes to you, then I see you every day, so just we'll have a sit down and chat. So let's stop recording here. 34 minutes.